You're giving yourself a bad.
So he goes back to the rescue. I was working I was doing a demolition job on this house in Santa Monica. So me and him were sleeping at the job. And the person didn't know, but we were sleeping at the job because they still had running water in the bathroom. And I was sleeping in my van, like in the garage, me and him. So I went back and worked that job like 2 more days. And I talked to the rescue and they're like, listen, we're gonna schedule to put him down. Do you wanna go with him? I didn't have to. I could have just said, you know what? It's too much, like, you know. I could have said that. But I never once thought to say like, no. I said, yeah, of course I have to take him, you know? So it was on a Thursday. I took him on a Thursday. May 2nd. May 2nd. No famous rapper died that day. The rescue was able to arrange, and there was an amazing rescue organization. He went to her house. This is really wild. Alger goes to the rescue house, the owner of the rescue to her house. She has another dog or 2 other dogs. This dog, who was not supposed to be around other dogs, he's at her house for 2-3 days, hanging with the other dogs, playing, just like doing great, you know? Just like totally normal dog, getting along with other dogs, you know? Which is wild, because when he was assessed, he probably was totally, there's no way to know. And I think back and I'm like, imagine it wasn't me who got that dog, you know? Imagine it wasn't a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Imagine it wasn't somebody capable, you know? Or imagine it wasn't somebody who even like just paid attention to like those little things in the beginning where you're like, man, this is like, something's off. And I was saying it to like one close friend of mine since I got him. Like I would say, I think something happened with the kid, because there's no way somebody would abandon this dog for any other reason than like something with a kid. This is what I felt, you know? When I dropped him at the rescue after that incident happened, she had, in the house, she had rabbits in like a, you know, in a thing. And when I brought him in the backyard, this was like a few days before he was scheduled to be euthanized, before we knew, he's like just out that back window, like, what's in there? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, just don't, like, we both know. But like, for sure, if he could have got to the rabbits, that's what he would have done. Again, it's not even abnormal behavior. For a dog, it's totally normal. When a dog bites you, for them, that's normal behavior. You know what I'm saying? And so she had called and said, I was able to arrange it, like, the euthanasia for like after hours. So if you want to come to my house, and this was up in Ventura County. So I drove up there around like, say 5 o'clock. He was like, that dog was so happy to see me. He just ran to my van, was like, where are we going now? You know? And so already you're like, you're like starting to deal with like, I know, he doesn't know. We're not going anywhere other than I'm taking you to be put to sleep for eternity, bro. Sorry, you know? So I took him for a walk, and I actually have some video of that. Not to sound morbid and all fucked up, but this is the last walk this dog is ever gonna go on. And I feel pretty honored to be the last one to take him. So, yeah. I walked him out to the park. This was a really telling moment. And we're just chilling there, and there's like kids on the park. He's just focused on them kids, you know? And I'm like, okay. Like no doubt if he was off leash, he's probably going after a kid, you know? So I put him in my van, he jumps up to the front seat, just chilling, happy as can be. We start driving to the vet. It's like, the thing about him is I always told him, like he was like every dog, like this dog would do great on a farm. Every dog would do great on a farm, but I was like, dude, I wish I could find you a farm. We get off the exit for the vet. And mind you, this is like, you know, it was up in Ventura, so it's pretty like, you know, busy. It's a pretty crowded area of California, I believe, for the most part. We get off, and as we're driving to this vet, like all of a sudden it just opens up into like farmland, you know? And I just start losing it. I'm like, dude, there's your farm. Like in that moment, I think this is when I really started bringing like, you know, I grew up Roman Catholic. I wasn't religious. Like you grow up Roman Catholic, the second you cannot be Roman Catholic, you're like, I'm not Roman Catholic, you know? But I always like, even if you go back in my music catalog, listen to my lyrics, see some of my videos, there's always some type of connection with God, you know? I'm always talking about that. But that moment, when that happened, like just this farm, and this is why I say there's way too many coincidences in my life for God to be non-existent. There's just way too many. When I saw that, I was like, dude, you're going somewhere good, you know? Somewhere where at least you can be yourself, because you can't do that here. That's how I felt. And so when we went inside, just me, the girl from the rescue, and the doctor. That's it, and the whole animal hospital, nobody else, and Alger. So we brought him in the room. We have to discuss one more time. Even the vet has to ask, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? He seems like such a great dog. And we said, you know, this is what's got to be done. Prior to this, if the victim goes to the hospital, I think there's a report, gets filed with the police have to check on the dog. You know, if it's a dangerous dog, the dog has to go on bite quarantine for 10 days at least to make sure they don't have rabies, et cetera, unless the dog is going to be euthanized. So, and it might differentiate in states, you know. The rescue had called me and said, hey, like they had sent me some pictures of like the baby, what happened, because they took pictures at the hospital. And she said, do you want to see them? She said they're like kind of, you know, rough. Now when the attack happened, I didn't see anything, you know, they just rushed off and took the baby to the hospital. And I just assumed like, okay, like precautionary. But long story short, the baby had like 7 puncture wounds on her leg and then up here on her shoulder, which means he was going for her neck, you know? And I said, I don't need to see that at all. I don't want to see that, you know? And she said, the police officer basically said, like, you saved the child's life, which is this really crazy thing in my mind, because like, I saved this dog's life the day he was supposed to be euthanized. Then I save a child's life from this dog, and then I take this dog's life. You know what I'm saying? Within 2 months. And like, yeah, I don't know. This always kind of trips me out. But we're in the hospital. He's just like looking out the window. You know, he's just like being Alger. He's cool. He's chilling. And even the doctor was like, man, this is crazy. Like, he is such a good dog. So the doctor says, again, we try not to anthropomorphize, which means attach your human feelings to like the animal, right? But that's the beauty about dogs and people is there's also like, sure, we can do that, but there is a complexity to them, and there are these feelings. How do we as humans like diagnose psychology? Like, oh, this is how this animal behaves because X, Y, and Z. Because you can't ever really get inside a mind. It's all theoretical all the time, right? But then by trial, we learn, oh, this is definitely factual. This has happened so many times that we're certain that this is how this happens, right? But they definitely feel fear and anxiety and confusion and all those sorts of things, right? So the vet asked me, I'll never forget this, dude. He asked me to sit on the floor and then take Alger and like put him in between my legs, like kind of on my lap, right? And then, because he's going to give him, again, like a sedative first, then he's going to give me time with the dog, and then he'll come back in and, you know, give him the final shot. So Alger sits here, and the vet's there and like takes his paw, and the dog just like, dude, like sinks into me, like just like this feeling of like, no, you know? So again, maybe that's my human emotion, that's what I think, you know, like maybe he's just like, well, this guy's gonna, you know, put something in my arm and take some blood, all right? And he was so fine. That's the other trippy thing about him is that a lot of dogs are not cool with like somebody, like a doctor, like sticking a needle in their arm and drawing blood. And he was totally just like, he didn't care at all, you know? And even the vet in that moment is like, look at this, is an amazing dog. Like, he just is such an amazing dog. I almost wish he would have stopped saying that, you know? But he like sunk into me. And so when you give him that shot, like he just he falls asleep for a little while, you know? And so he falls asleep. He's just laying on the floor. They go out. So I have like, this time I want to take my time. You know what I'm saying? And so he's like snoring, actually. His tongue's like out of his mouth. And I just start talking to him. Just saying all sorts of things. I don't really remember, you know? But just like kind of, his eyes are like halfway open, kind of like rolled in his head. I don't know if he hears me, you know? I hope he does. And just telling him what, you know, how much he's done for me. I mean, even when I got him, I knew like, oh, I think I'm gonna work with dogs, because this is all really interesting and fascinating to me. But after that, for sure. So I called him back in, and this is a really beautiful thing too. We don't really like take the time in this, at least in American culture, in my opinion, to really like be okay with death. We don't take the time to like sit with it and accept it, because we don't take the time to like sit with God and accept it. And so everybody wants to pretend like that's never gonna happen. And when it gets there, we're so terrified, we don't know how to like even emotionally handle it and be with each other, you know, in certain ways. But people of like strong faith always do handle it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even my family, we lose family members, there's always like this real, you know. And I don't know what that's about, but I'm sitting here, Alger's right here, the vet's here, my friend from the rescue's here, and we're just sitting in this circle, you know, before he gives him the shot. And then he explains, I'm gonna give it to him, you know, his heart will slowly start to stop. And then he'll probably take like 1 or 2 last breaths, and that'll be it. And it was kind of this really beautiful moment, bro. It's hard to explain. I'm crying. The vet puts his hand on my shoulder and just like, I know, you know. He knew for sure. And so he gives him the shot, and he's just breathing. And I'm just like, I'm crushed, dude. Like, I was just crushed. So sure enough, like, he just gets slower and slower, and then it's just like 2. And that was it. I wanted to like see this through, beginning to end. Now, this doesn't sound like glorious or anything, but when your dog dies in a vet hospital, after the dog when it's just the body, most places put the dog in a plastic bag because they have to, and then put it in a freezer, because if the dog's going to be cremated, they have to go in the freezer. Or some people take the dog with them, put a blanket on and take the dog. I didn't have the chance to do that, so the rescue offered to pay to get him cremated. We went, got a plastic bag, and this is before I had worked in the vet hospital. This is the first time I did this. And again, it actually felt like I was honoring him. Put him, you know, in the bag, and I actually carried him with the girl from the rescue because he was heavy, and put him in the freezer because he was going to get picked up, you know, to be cremated after that at some point. And then I left, and I got in my van again, alone, in fucking Los Angeles. Sorry, excuse my language. You know? But this time was different, because I just, like, something changed, like, immediately. I was like, this is why I came here. It wasn't because I was playing music for 20 years and dreaming of being here. I mean, it was part of it, but that's not why I went there, you know? And again, call it whatever you want, like, you know, that just happened by chance. There's no way, dude. There's absolutely no way. you know? And that dog, of all the dogs, broke my heart probably the most. Because he was amazing, you know, he didn't fit. That's the thing, like, he didn't fit in like our picture. He didn't fit in like, he just didn't fit in what we've designed here as people, you know? But if he's not here, if he's like, and I know so many dogs like this, dude, like right now, if these dogs are like living how they were living 150 years ago before we like domesticated them, these dogs are king. You know what I'm saying? That dog's the king. Nobody's messing with him, you know? Even sometimes when I meditate, like I see him and Tipsy like this. I always see like this kind of wooden fence, like woods, and they're just like there. And she doesn't like him, but she tolerates him. And he's just like, why didn't you like me, you know?